Like everyone in Australia fancies himself as another Errol Flynn. So we decided to ask Andrew along tonight to talk to us about the film and this overwhelming response to his call for a new Errol Flynn. Would you please make welcome the producer of the film, Andrew Gaddy. Here you go. Hello, my friend. You know me. First of all, this is on the up and up. I mean, you are going to do this film called, what, the Errol Flynn Story?
The Errol Flynn Story.
Yeah. And what kind of a film is it going to be? Is it going to be biographical, or is it going to be a fantasy, or what?
Well, Flynn did so much, Don. He was such a complex character that it's impossible to cover it, put everything in a film. So the way we're going to do it, we're going to take the story from the point of view of the people who knew him, who were close to him. So consequently, we don't have to do it in chronological order. We will do it in flashbacks.
And is the film going to be produced here or in America?
We're going to do about 4 weeks shooting here and about 4 weeks in the States, in LA.
Right, so, and whose idea was this to put this ad out?
Well, it was my idea. I talked about who should play Flynn with the director, Philip Moore, since about last September. And I figured that you never know who you find. I mean, I didn't want to get into a situation where we're not happy with the casting, and then get into a situation where I thought, Christ, we should do a campaign to try to find a person, so we thought we'll do that.
So you're looking for a new face, really,
to... We hope to find something.
To put on an old face,
right,
to coin a phrase. Bert, tell me, now you are our movie expert, of course, being a film buff like you are. What about Flynn? Now, what were the special qualities with Errol Flynn that makes him so special with all of this?
It's very hard to explain, Don. I think that it's perhaps best described by Bud Westmore, who was a very famous makeup artist in America, and indeed his father was too, Percy Westmore. But Bud Westmore once said that regardless of what anybody else tells you, there are only two perfect-featured men in American movies ever. And they were Tyrone Power and Errol Flynn. But Flynn had one thing above Tyrone Power, according to Mr. Westmore, and that was, as much as you loathed him, as much as he gave you trouble on the set, as a young man, it was impossible to shoot him at a bad angle. You could not make him look bad, could you, Andrew?
No.
He had perfect features. We all know that he was born in Tassie. He went to New Guinea as a very young man. He was a patrol officer there, regional officer there, then to England, then on to movies. His life, as I've read it over the years, obviously was just one filled with grog, women, drugs, punctuated only by making movies. And unfortunately, I think the making of the movies, in his case, were mainly to hold up with those habits. He was a great mate of Peter Finch. They were very, very close together, not only because they happened to be born in Australia, but they were very much the same sort of men, except that Peter Finch was an actor, and Errol Flynn would not accept the fact that he was an actor. He saw himself as a movie personality. And Peter Finch says in a book by Trader Faulkner, you spoke to Trader on this program a couple of years ago, Peter Finch says that if Errol Flynn had taken himself seriously, he could have been a great actor. But he didn't believe in himself. He died in 1959. He was 50 years of age. When he was 40, it's not unfair to say, it's fact, when he was 40, he looked about 65.
Well, he was jaundiced towards the end, wasn't he? Because of liver trouble from drinking and all that.
Yeah, well, he had cirrhosis of the liver. He had the jaundice, as you say. He was a wreck of a man, unfortunately. He was loved very much by his fellow actors and actresses, with the exception of Bette Davis. She loathed him. In one film they made together, he was required to smack her across the face.
Was Sir Walter Raleigh or something?
Elizabeth of Essex, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And they'd had an argument, so come the scene, and he gave her the biggest wallop, and near fractured a jaw. He wasn't liked by the management of the movie studios because he was so unreliable. He was hauled into Jack Warner's office on one occasion and said, "Errol, why are you so late?" And he said, "I slept in." He said, "Errol, you can't sleep for 7 days." He was 7 days late. And just finally, as I mentioned, he was so much loved by his fellow actors and also by his wives, or many of them. Patrice Wymore, who remains his widow, he didn't marry after Patrice Wymore, she told me on radio a couple of months ago that it would be impossible for Errol Flynn to be the Nazi that he was portrayed in a recent book because, quite frankly, she said, in Errol Flynn's life, he wouldn't have had the time to be a Nazi.
It's hard to goose step when you do what he does.
Sure.
Yeah,
He sent a card to Patrice Wymore, which had a Shakespearean quotation in print. And if I remember correctly, it read in the print, "All of my wealth runs in my veins, and I am a gentleman." And then, in a very drunken scrawl, in his own hand, and so's your old man.
Well, we have a...
Incidentally, he died 2 days after sending that card.
We have a film clip here. Now, this is his first film was an Australian film.
Yes.
It's called In the Wake of the Bounty. He played Fletcher Christian.
It was made by Charles Chauvel, the Australian filmmaker, and Ken Hall, who was in charge of Centre Sound at that time, your old boss at TCN9, he loaned out the studios to Charles Chauvel, and Ken Hall has said in print that the very first time he saw Errol Flynn as a very, very young man in the studios of Centre Sound, he was chasing a girl from the editing department.
Well, here's a scene. We got a couple of minutes of a scene from Errol Flynn's first movie in Australia. Here it is.
Mr. Christian, sit down. For the desertion of Churchill, Muspat and Millard, I hold the mate of the watch responsible. You will have Hayward turned before the mast and put in irons for this.
Sir, as an officer, I caution you. As a man, I ask you to bear more with the men. 6 months was too long at Tahiti. Your sailors have left their hearts there at the cost of their reason.
You are well informed, Mr. Christian. Are you stating the case of your men or that of yourself?
Sir,
Shut up! Your mad infatuation with that half-caste girl, Isabel, is the talk of the ship.
It's a lie.
Mr. Christian, you dare!
Yes, sir, I dare. I will carry you and land you wherever you please. I desire none to stay with me. I have only one favor to beg. That you grant me the bounty. Make fast the foresail and leave me to run before the wind. I have done such an act that I cannot stay at Tahiti. And I'll never live to be carried home, a disgrace to my family.
Go where you will, Mr. Christian. We shall never leave you.
Yes, all right. Isn't that great?
1933.
1933.
33, I'm sorry, yeah.
I love that. Make fast your foresail.
Yeah, what a good-looking man he was.
What kind of a reaction now did you get from this? I understand that the girl on your switch at your office was inundated with...
We had about 400 calls, 300 to 400 calls in the first 2 days.
Is that 400 blokes that think that they can be Errol Flynn?
And the photographs are just pouring in. I mean, we just got some incredible ones now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever think of not going for a look-alike?
Yes, we thought about it. What I was looking for, Bert, is somebody who doesn't have an image yet. I don't want a person to be associated with a previous role.
I said something, I slip of the tongue. You see how things go up your head. I said, well, the natural one would be his son. And then Andrew reminded me that his son was lost in Vietnam or something. Disappeared. Sean Flynn, yeah.
They never found his body.
Let me show you just a few of the... Andrew brought these in today, and I got to tell you this. These are legit. I have had the things typed out because sometimes it's hard to read the writing, you know what I mean? But you can see that they are legit letters. They really are. I won't give any names or anything. It says, so you've decided to do a story on Errol Flynn and need somebody to play the leading role. Well, you need not bother to look any further because here is your dream star come to life. I am very much a buckling swash type of person and fit very well in leotards.
Pleased you got my letter.
Yeah. Regarding the quest for an actor to play Errol Flynn, I would like to suggest a young actor whose name I do not know, but who played Alice's first husband in The Sullivans. Who are they talking about there?
Who would that be? Bert. Was that Bert?
I don't know. Alice's first husband in The Sullivans. Any Sullivans expert?
John Walton.
John Walton.
Yeah.
Walton.
Well, there's a suggestion for
He's a
that.
very good actor.
Sounds like a
What about
legend.
John Waters?
He's good, too.
He's very good.
Yeah.
Listen to this. This is funny, and I must show you this photograph with this, too. I'll hold this up. It says, and this is, I'm not lying to you. This is not exaggeration. There's the picture. Said, even though I don't physically resemble Errol Flynn, I feel we have many things in common, including the fact that we both like to sleep around.
I think the only thing wrong there is I don't think Errol Flynn was ever known to sleep in a bed alone.
Yeah, right. That's true. And this is something I must ask you about. It says, I have enclosed 3 photos of my son. I can't show you these photos, which were taken last December whilst he was in the Army Reserve. Have you had lots of mail
Yes,
from mums?
we had a lot of mums, wives,
Talking about their husbands?
talking about their husbands. We got a wedding photograph.
A wedding
A
photograph?
wedding photograph,
Really?
yeah. in a bridal outfit, tuxedo.
Listen to this. I hope you don't think this is dumb, but I won't get anywhere acting if I don't try. I know I really don't look like Errol Flynn, and I'm not the right age, but I'm not losing by trying at least. And I don't want to end up selling gelatis at Myers forever. And this one, I've got to show you, Bert, that this is legit. You see that there written on the side? This wrote a whole letter. I can't tell you what it is. And on the side is written, if Bert Newton gets the job, I'm going to scream, right? And it said, you can believe this, as a suggestion, how about Mrs. Whitlam? I don't believe.
Too
Andrew,
told.
good luck. The quest is still on, is it?
It's still on. Till we
Well, if
find
you
him.
find who you're going to do for the Errol Flynn, you got to
Yeah.
promise me you're going to come in here and show him to us
Absolutely.
first, will you?
Absolutely.
Will you make a promise?
Absolutely.
Good luck with the film,
Thank
Andrew.
you,
Bert,
Don.
thanks very much, man.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. We'll be back. Joe Dolce's going to sing his new hit single for us.